While the rate of carjackings in Minneapolis has dropped in recent weeks, the city is still on pace for yet another record-breaking year.
The Fox 9 investigators have uncovered never-before-seen video of some of the most brazen carjackings the Metro has ever seen. And
tonight, Fox 9 investigator Nathan O'Neill sits down with MPD to find out if their plan to reduce those carjackings is actually working.
These are images you've never seen before.
Keep coming up, keep coming up, keep coming up.
My car was just carjacked. They just took my car from me.
Carjackings in Minneapolis.
Hands up! Driver, hands up!
Some targeting the most vulnerable, and even children caught in the middle. For the past 6 months, the Fox 9 investigators have dug through years of court records, evidence files, and video to gain rare insight into the genesis of the carjacking crisis. Here's the good news. Overall, carjackings in Minneapolis are down from that record peak at the tail end of 2021. But here's the bad news. So far, the city is still on track to outpace carjackings compared to last year and the year before that. In fact, let's go back to 2020. Minneapolis was reeling from the murder of George Floyd. The pandemic was raging, and carjackings began to surge like we had never seen before. This video, obtained by the Fox 9 investigators, reveals one of the most chilling examples. Watch as surveillance cameras track Antonio DeLeon, seen here wandering the streets near a Raising Cane's restaurant in the summer of 2020, the height of the pandemic. The driver of the white Buick is inside picking up food, with her young daughter still in the car. Police records reveal her daughter has cerebral palsy and can't walk, so she left her in the car with the air on. DeLeon appears to notice the car is running, hops in, and then takes off with the child still inside. You can see and feel the sheer panic as the mother realizes what's happening. But it doesn't end there. A few blocks away, DeLeon pulls over and dumps the girl on the sidewalk, where she struggles to crawl to a bystander for help. After 7 grueling minutes, the mother is reunited with her daughter, unharmed. We recently shared this video with Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry.
To see those types of videos and to know that these types of crimes are happening in your city often dozens of times a day, what goes through your head as a leader when you see that?
They're horrible. They're unacceptable. People should not need to go through that kind of trauma.
But last year saw a record number of carjackings, with more than 600 cases reported to Minneapolis police alone. Among them, this carjacking in December, involving a group of apparent teenagers targeting a family at their home in South Minneapolis.
It's definitely not a place that I feel comfortable raising my children right now. I know that they don't feel safe.
That's a feeling the police force is keenly aware of.
You hear so many people in the suburbs say, I don't go to Minneapolis because of all the carjacking. What would you tell those folks?
That's a great and tough question to answer. I can't look at those 655 people and say, yeah, it's safe here, because they have experienced a horrible crime. And so I am mindful that for those who have experienced this crime, it's serious, it's traumatic, and we as a department take that very seriously. I can also say that the vast majority of citizens, employees, and those who visit the city don't experience crime.
Oftentimes, these cases can be complicated, with carjackers crossing city boundaries and jurisdictions.
Hands up! Hands up!
Like in October 2020, when this high-speed chase led a state trooper to a man who committed a carjacking in Minneapolis just days earlier.
Get out of the car!
The encounter ending in New Brighton with this dramatic arrest,
right here.
all against the backdrop of a fiery crash. But over time, more complex and organized carjacking rings have surfaced. And in the summer of 2021, MPD launched a carjacking work group made up of internal robbery and juvenile justice investigators, the FBI, and prosecutors.
This group comes together and ensures that all of those crimes that are associated with that individual or with that group are being investigated to the best possible way and linking all those individuals.
One ongoing investigation focuses on an apparent crime ring that's targeted rideshare drivers since 2021, In fact, a recent search warrant seeks data and information from Uber on potential suspects after identifying 71 violent crimes tied to the group.
What would you say is the department's focus in terms of identifying success?
The obvious one would be arrests, prosecutions, drop in occurrences. That's the obvious one.
But a recent Fox 9 investigators' analysis of police data revealed in 2021, as many as 90% of carjacking cases in Minneapolis went unsolved.
When we look back at last year, 2021, a majority of those cases that came through this department were unsolved or didn't lead to an arrest. What can be done from the point of policing to improve on that?
Well, carjacking occurs in a matter of seconds. And while it can happen in just a few seconds, over time, we are able, in a lot of cases, to develop evidence and information.
But Mayor Fry tells us it's about more than just arrests.
There's really no one single metric that we're going to be using here. It's prevention beforehand, it's prosecution after the fact, and of course it's diversion.
That could include perhaps intervening with carjackers like DeLeon, the man ultimately caught and convicted in that gut-wrenching carjacking involving the young girl. It turns out, at the time of that crime, DeLeon was out on bond on a separate car theft charge from just a few months prior. Fast forward to now, and the sheer number of carjackings in the city of Minneapolis has seen a steep decline in recent months. But the question is, why?
Is this decline a response to what the department is doing, or is it more seasonal?
Unfortunately, it's too early to tell. We will constantly reevaluate. What are we doing? Where are we at? How is it working? And if it's not, what are we going to do to make sure that it does work?
Now, understanding carjacking trends is a long-term strategy. These cases can often be tough to crack and even tougher to prosecute, which is why it's so important to look beyond what's just happening day to day. Still, it could take some time before we truly understand whether specific efforts by police, prosecutors, or any other agency are actually working. For the Fox 9 investigators, I'm Nathan O'Neill.
And just last week, the U.S. Attorney for Minnesota announced his office is also ramping up its efforts to target carjackings and other violent crime. He vowed that any adult who commits a carjacking will face federal charges, which includes tougher penalties.